I think it's time to have a real serious conversation about Marquise Hollywood Brown. We've had this conversation with Marco Wilson as well as Isaiah Simmons, and they're usually pretty spot on. But as of right now, I think it's time to have this real uncomfortable talk about our number one wide receiver in Marquise. Let's get started. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into another video. Definitely do me a huge favor, smack the like button on this video and subscribe for more Arizona Cardinals content. Make sure you follow me on all my social platforms. Everything will be in the description below. All right, everybody, let's go and dive into it. Let's talk about this very, very uncomfortable topic here. And obviously, it has to do with Marquise Hollywood Brown. Should the Cardinals retain him in the 2024 season or should they not? Now, I wish we had the luxury to not really talk about this topic because I get it, right? Marquise is Kyler's guy, and I think a lot of us really want to see this work, right? We truly do, but it really kind of determines on at what price at the end of the day, right? Now, I do really specifically remember when we actually traded for him. I was watching the 2022 NFL draft and we were waiting for our pick, and boom, breaking news ended up dropping that the Cardinals ended up trading for Marquise Hollywood Brown. And although we all kind of knew deep down that this was a attempt for former general manager Steve Keim to kind of save face to Kyler Murray, because there was kind of a lot of drama happening in that last offseason, Cardinal fans were excited to really kind of hoping to see a great connection between these two guys, right? So I'm not gonna lie, the moment we heard what AJ Brown ended up going for, probably about 5-10 minutes later, I was a little like, but we wanted to kind of see exactly what happened here between the two guys, K1 as well as Hollywood Brown. But as of right now, we haven't heard a lot of kind of noise as much as we all thought we were going to. Now, Marquise Hollywood Brown did end up saying he ended up leaving Baltimore, obviously because it was a fit. The Cardinals wanted him, but there was also that kind of drama that he wasn't really getting the ball a lot, and the Cardinals were throwing the ball a lot, so it kind of made sense, and it kind of seemed like a match made in heaven. But right now, where we're standing in the 2023 season, this kind of seems like something where, I don't know, like, this is kind of far from what I truly did expect, right? Now, as of right now, yes, Kyler Murray has missed a good chunk of this year with rehabbing his knee injury and coming back here. We've only seen 4 games with Kyler Murray, so I know it's kind of really unfair to assess Marquise Hollywood Brown, but Marquise Hollywood Brown has been playing the entirety of the season, right? And as of right now, his stats are 51 receptions, 574 yards, 4 touchdowns, and averages about 11.3 yards a catch. It's not that great, right? Especially if you're seen to be a number one wide receiver. Now, to me, I never specifically saw Marquise Hollywood Brown as a number one wide receiver myself, and I've got a lot of flack for that take, but this is kind of the proof in the pudding, right? We were all hoping that this guy was going to be the guy to come out here and shine for the Cardinals, and honestly, we haven't really seen that happen at all. Let's take a look here at the last 4 games with Hollywood as well as Kyler Murray. Now, let's go ahead and start here with the Atlanta Falcons game, because that is when K1 started. Look at the receptions to targets to the amount of yards that Hollywood Brown has been getting, right? It's not a lot. Like, with these 4 games with Kyler Murray, there's not really much explosion at all. The Atlanta Falcons game, he got 1 reception, 4 targets, 28 yards. In the Houston game, 2 receptions, 5 targets, 18 yards. And then in that LA Rams game, there was 6 receptions, 12 targets, 88 yards, which on paper looks good, but in the grand scheme of things, those were a lot of garbage yards more than anything. So you could, obviously they're on the stats, so, take it as you will, but it is what it is. Now, obviously, in the Pittsburgh game, the Cardinals did start off slow here on offense as well, but 0 receptions, 3 targets, 0 yards. Now, Marquise Hollywood Brown didn't finish that game because of, I believe it was a heel injury, so he wasn't able to finish that game, but this is just a perfect example of what we've been seeing from Kyler Murray and Marquise Hollywood Brown. I think what we were all hoping for was obviously the Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase connection, and obviously that would be a match made in heaven if that was the situation, but we're not dealing with that right now with Hollywood, right? Now, I do solidly think that Hollywood Brown is a solid number 2 2 wide receiver, but I think in the grand scheme of things, you are going to have to pay what the market entails. Right now, when you look at these stats on what he's done with the Arizona Cardinals, it hasn't been very much, especially in this year. Now, like I said a little earlier, I get it. It is kind of hard to judge Hollywood Brown because Kyler Murray hasn't been there for the entirety of the year. He's only really played 4 games with Hollywood Brown, but honestly, I was expecting a lot more. Almost kind of feels like Kyler Murray is a lot more comfortable with Trey McBride, which obviously he's having a very, very good year for the Cardinals. And on top of that, Michael Wilson. So Michael Wilson is a rookie this year, and he's already had, very, very close to Marquise Hollywood Brown numbers, and that's just talking about the entirety of the year. But Kyler Murray automatically seems more comfortable with Trey McBride and Michael Wilson, so that's a concern there on its own as well. And that's not to kind of mention the elephant in the room, right, where Marquise Hollywood Brown has had a injury history, not just with the Cardinals, but this goes with the Baltimore Ravens and even in his college days as well. Marquise Hollywood Brown was placed on IR by the Cardinals back in October of 2022 with a foot fracture. So obviously these aren't things that Hollywood can control, and I'm fully aware that you can't predict injuries, but in the grand scheme of things, Monty Ossenfort and this front offense really needs to sit down and really kind of evaluate, is Marquise Hollywood Brown either worth anywhere between $15 to $20 million right now? Obviously, I wouldn't want to pay him anywhere 20, 22, 23 personally, but it doesn't really matter what I want as a fan. It is going to determine on the market and what Monty Ossenfort and the rest of this front office feels like Marquise Hollywood Brown is worth, right, at the end of the day. But there is some concerns for me. Obviously, injury and the connection between Kyler Murray just doesn't really seem to be there. I think what the Cardinals really need to do is start evaluating and bringing in big-bodied wide receiver, right? Your 6 foot something wide receivers, and obviously having Trey McBride and continue to elevate his career with the Arizona Cardinals, because I think that should be what the most important thing is. Now, although I do feel like Marquise Hollywood Brown is a very good playmaker, I just maybe don't feel like this offense is best suited for him, right? He's a speedster, he's a take the top off of the defense type of guy, but the connection hasn't been there right now. Whether you blame that on Kyler, Marquise, together, right? It doesn't matter. The grand scheme of things is the production isn't being placed on the field. So the Cardinals really need to evaluate where the Cardinals are going to go for the number 2 wide receiving role, or heck, even the number 1 wide receiving role for their roster moving forward. Now, I think you really also need to ask yourself as well is, who would you rather have, right? Would you rather have Marquise Hollywood Brown, Michael Pittman, or maybe even T. Higgins if he comes available, or heck, maybe even Mike Evans if he becomes available in free agents? So I think you really got to have to put all these guys here on the table and really figure out who you are deciding to pay, because although the Cardinals have a lot of cap space heading into the 2024 season, Marquise Hollywood Brown is going to get a good chunk of that cap as well. So you really got to evaluate who you want to be as your number 1 wide receiver, whether that's a rookie or your 2nd wide receiver, your 3rd wide receiver. And honestly, Marquise Hollywood Brown is going to be one of those biggest question marks out there. Is he going to be the guy for the Cardinals moving forward? So as of right now, ladies and gentlemen, ask yourself all of these questions. Is Marquise Hollywood Brown the guy? Are you willing to give him another chance? Because this is a contract year. He's playing for, obviously, to get the bag in the offseason. Now, is it this guy? Is it going to be any other free agent that possibly can hit the market? Or would you rather the Arizona Cardinals spend a good majority of draft capital to get their guy, right? Marvin Harrison Jr., any other guy that's coming out of this draft? Let me know here what your guys' thoughts here on Marquise Hollywood Brown. Do you think he's the problem? Do you think this offense is the problem? Do you think the connection just isn't there anymore? Let me know here in the comments below. Appreciate you guys for tuning in as always. Have a great rest of your day and go Cards.